Hey, and welcome back to OntarioCyrptids. First, my Kansas City Chiefs lost in their Super Bowl last weekend, but that's okay, because we have next year to get back into the championship, so no worries there. Second, this is episode 45, which means I'm going to be thanking the following people for liking and commenting each week on my episodes. All right, so in alphabetical order, we have Bender, Blah Blah, Bomber, Chris Jarvis, Gene, J Cryptid Trooper, John RAMEY, and No Iggy. So thank you guys so much for all your support. I truly appreciate it. Okay, so today we have 3 stories that I'm going to be sharing with you all, and I hope you all enjoy them. So go grab yourself a beverage, let's get cozy on the couch or chair, and sit back and relax. This first encounter story takes place in June of 2009 in Conejos County, Colorado. At least that's how you would say it in Spanish. It also says here that the nearest town was Platoro, Colorado, and it takes place, I guess, somewhere around Cornwall Mountain. In early June of 2009, I was riding my four-wheeler above Jasper, Colorado at about 7 a.m. in the morning. I had stopped to rest at the logging block when I heard a loud howling noise. There was no wind that day, and I could not focus in on the source. I had seen a lot of sheep on Cornwall Mountain on my way up, so I figured it was a dog of the sheep herder. I had finished my water and was loading everything back on the bike when I heard the same sound again, only this time it was much louder. I zeroed in on the sound and my heart stopped. Slightly below the logging road and to my right, I observed a very large, dirty black man-like creature with hands around an aspen tree. It was leaning a little to the right and staring at me. I stood very still and never took my eyes off of it. After about 7 or 8 minutes, it turned and simply walked off down the hill. I will add that I am a 30-year archer hunter and have successfully tagged bears in the same unit. This was no bear. It was large and shaggy looking. Well, this was a very intense encounter, it sounds like, just from what I'm reading. Very short story as far as the description of the encounter, but yet at the same time it was very intense. What I found fascinating about this story was the description, because if you read some of the early encounters back in the early 1900s, a lot of them would say hairy, man-like. It was always man-like. It was never animal or beast or anything like that. But in any case, very, very interesting story. Okay, let's move on to story number 2. Okay, this next story takes place August 15th of 1996. It takes place in Harford County, Maryland, and the nearest towns were Falston or Kingsville. Here in Maryland, there is not a lot to do. Mostly me and my friends just hang out. The local cops don't like this, and neither do the business owners, so a lot of times we end up in parks or parking spots. On this night, 8 people were gathered at this location in 4 cars. We all met up in town around 8 or 9 in the evening. The cops decided too many people were gathering and chased us off. One local drinking or partying spot is nicknamed the Lodges. Basically, it's Gunpowder State Park, a well-known local fishing hole, the subject to Indian-related ghost stories, and in a middle-of-nowhere spot in the middle of civilization. We decided to head there. We arrived around 10 p.m. We proceeded on the usual chatting of whose car is fastest, who's dating who, and such. Some people were using drugs, 1 or 2 had been drinking. Me and my friend T and J were not on this night. We all sat pretty quiet in our cars. Nobody had been out except for the occasional rearranging of seats for close to 4 hours. I do remember that it was very cold that night for our area, probably around 40 degrees, and it was definitely before Halloween since we were making plans. 3 cars were facing forward, my 87 Mustang, T's 68 Mustang, and B's Dodge Omni. The other ones were not. We were all parked side by side in a row facing almost 45-degree grade of dense shrubs and 15 to 30 foot tall trees. The road, bottom road, was in front and the bend in the stream was behind us with boulders and shrubs all around. Lighting wasn't the best, but enough to make out the trees close to 50 feet away and ground cover around them. The area is almost indescribable. It happened around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. We all stopped talking to the noise of what sounded like someone running through the woods. I figured it was a deer. Then you hear it crashing down the hill in front of us. This sounded like someone taking a running step down the side of a steep loose gravel hill, breaking off limbs and whatever else they could grab to help them slow down. Then, plop! Out onto the road lands a human figure. I was looking down at this point. In the car next to me, T goes, "Jesus Christ!" and I look up to see a dark human figure hunched over, looking back at us. Instinctively, B in the Omni and I pull on our headlights almost at the same time. It was still a little hazy from the stream behind us, and all I personally could make out by the time my eyes refocused was what looked like a humanoid figure close to 8 feet tall, sprinting away from us. I can still distinctively remember the sounds of it running away, exactly like someone running barefoot on blacktop or concrete, a slapping noise. I unfroze and got out. So did T and B. We walked up the hill a little, and I felt really weird. At this point, the last word spoken was T saying, "Jesus Christ." We all got into our cars. We sat there for about 10 minutes. Then simultaneously, we all turned to each other and said, "It's getting late," or "I'm too tired of this," and decided to all head out. Nobody spoke about this to each other for almost a year. Some people that were there still won't talk about it willingly or in front of others. Honestly, I thought it was a gag at first. There's a lot of Indian ghost stories tied to the area because of an Indian graveyard. I don't know what it was, and I don't care. All I know is that it was not a man, and it sure as hell was not a deer. If you can explain it in any other way for me, that's fine, but I have at least 6 other witnesses. A lot of time has passed since this happened, and a lot of construction has taken place. I have heard of a few other sightings like this, including a set of footprints less than 5 miles south of the area and within a year of our encounter. So this was an interesting story. I guess, kids goofing around and wanting a place to retreat were better to go than some remote parkland area that's still kind of close to home, Who didn't do that? I remember doing that as kids. But I can't imagine hearing some massive thing come running down towards the vehicles and then just dropping in front of them almost like it's I don't know. It clearly knew they were there because it plopped not that far from them and then looked at them and then ran away as soon as they tried turning on their headlights. Very interesting. Anyways, as the witness states, this happened back in 1996, and it sounds like the area would have changed quite a bit. So I don't know if I have the exact location, but it's close enough. All right, so on to story number 3, and this will be the last story of the day. So this last encounter takes place February 24th, 2009 in Madison County, Alabama, in the town of Huntsville. And this encounter takes place on a Marriott hotel location next to the Rocket Center. I was staying at the Marriott Hotel, 6th floor in Huntsville, Alabama, at the Space and Rocket Center. At 5:40 a.m. on February 24, 2009, I went on the balcony to drink my coffee as the room was too stuffy and hot. I was out there just thinking and staring off at the woods when something caught my eye. After refocusing on it, I realized there were legs, then arms. Then I could clearly make out his face. The creature stood 6 to 7 feet tall and was staring directly back at me. It seemed to have fine hairs all over. Gray color hair that got more black as the hair got closer to the skin. The tips of the hair were much lighter. The face, lips, eyes, and eyelids, etc., were more of a very dark brown. It stood very erect and was very muscular, and did not seem to have the ape-like protruding mouth and nose, but more flat-faced human-like mouth and nose. After 30 seconds, he started rocking back and forth. I then realized he was moving and could in no way be mistaken for a deer or a bear or anything else. This was a fully erect ape-like animal that seemed to want me to see him. He was rocking back and forth from side to side. After the initial 30 seconds, he rocked for about 10 to 12 seconds and then stood and stared at me. I was on the 6th floor, about 120 yards away, in decent lighting due to the hotel lights and street lights behind loading area of the hotel. He then would stare back, and then he would remain face forward with feet only 2 feet apart. He would lean over to his left and with his right arm would start pulling bark off a very large pine tree. It looked as if someone were in a sawing position. Then he would stand up and stare at me, then rock, and then pull bark. This was done in that order 3 times over a 5 to 6 minute period. After 5 minutes of re-verifying what I was looking at, I felt this creature was docile from his smooth movements. I decided I would try to get a closer look. As I opened the sliding door, he stared and I stared back. I ran out of the hotel room and there was a security in the hall laying the morning newspaper at the hotel room doors. I asked him to come with me and asked for backup since he had no gun. We ran around a corner outside, and as we were running, I finally got the nerve to tell him what I saw. We get to the reference points I had chosen, and there was a lot of fresh bark removed from a large pine tree. I tried to pull the bark from it to no avail. It was too hard. I'm 6'4", 300 pounds. I went back after 7 a.m. I did notice what looked like scat. It took the form of explosive diarrhea and looked like 100 birds had pooped in a small area. Like in a shotgun pattern, heavy in the middle, lighter to the outer perimeter. I put a large handful in a Marriott laundry plastic bag. It looked like feces and digested berries and seeds. It was dry, although it had rained the night before. One of the Marriott employees saw 2 large footprints, more like deep indentations in the pine straw. I took off my shoe and placed my foot in it, and there was about 1-inch area all the way around my foot in order to fill the indentation. Something very heavy had to make this indentation. I tried, and I'm 300 pounds. I could not. I am 100% positive of the above description. I watched this clearly for 5 to 6 minutes. Okay, first of all, I have to apologize for laughing near the end there, but I was just picturing it so vividly in my mind anyways, I snickered a little bit there and I had to get my composure. Okay, so the whole thing about making eye contact to me is very interesting in 2 of the stories that we've heard today. And because in most encounters that we hear about, as soon as you have eye contact, they disappear. They don't want to be seen. They're shy. They run away. But for whatever reason, these two encounters anyways, there was a lot of staring back and forth, which I find very intriguing. In the second story, I found it interesting. The whole location seemed to have more history to it because of the Indian gravesite, and I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I just thought it was kind of interesting. So that is going to be a wrap for today. I hope you guys enjoyed these 3 encounter stories today, and if you have an encounter story that you would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. And well, all there's left to say now is I hope you guys have a fantastic Sunday, and we will see you all next week.